And it says we are going. Hello, everybody. Welcome to PMA Sessions for August 5th, 2020 here on Punk Rock Saves Lives. We appreciate every one of you as usual, and we're hoping everybody's having a great week. As usual, I've got my co-hosts with me, Dan and Mackenzie, and this week down below me on my screen, I hope she's on your screen there. It's weird when you have these blocks, this Brady Bunch type stuff.
You never know.
Yeah, you never know. Miss Shawna Potter from War on Women. She's also an author and an amazing activist who has brought us the Safer Spaces Initiative. Unbelievable stuff, doing all sorts of great stuff. So how is everybody this week?
Good. Thanks for having me.
Yeah.
Cool.
I mean, good with an asterisk, obviously.
Yeah. Always a big asterisk with all of this.
Yeah.
Fun thing we do every week. I'm rocking the Rock Against Racism shirt this week. I see Mackenzie's got La Butcherettes. What do you got on this week there, Dan? I can't tell.
Oh, that's fun.
I have actually a Sincere Engineer baseball jersey.
Nice.
Someone recommended them last week, so that's it.
Yes.
And Shauna's got the 80s drop shoulder.
I have a weird old 80s Dickel whiskey shirt that's like there's holes, it's huge. It might have been my dad's, I'm not really sure, but it's really comfy when I refuse to leave the house these days, so I'm wearing it a lot.
There's never anything wrong with being comfortable. My amazing Tina just ordered us a bunch of Thai food, so when we are done with this, I get to rock in some Thai tonight. And,
nice.
Set up where we're going this week in all sorts of cool ways. We always start off every week with talking about how everybody's going. I'm going to let you know that I started driving packages for the big giant corporate entity that everybody knows because
it's a job.
Obviously, with COVID, obviously none of us are touring, and we just launched Punk Rock Saves Lives when all of this went down, and so to keep us from Tina and I nor have been paying ourselves anything, and we survived on some savings and stuff for a while, but it was time, and I don't see us touring into next year yet. To be completely honest, and Shawna will get the biggest kick out of this, my first 4 days on the road and driving and loading that truck and unloading that truck is probably tougher than your first week of learning curve on the Warped Tour. I am.
Well, that's really saying something then. Yeah, that must be really tough.
I am physically beat.
I bet.
I consider myself an okay physical guy. You know what I mean? I'm a physical person, but man, the learning curve on this and the physical curve is crazy tough. It's about 10 hours a day, if not more, and you jump in and out of that van or truck or whatever you want to call it, probably 120 times a day, if not more, and run to the
Get them hammies working.
Yeah, everything. So Kevin Lyman, thanks for the training.
Yeah, really. Yeah, right. I mean, if you've been on Warped Tour, you kind of feel like you can accomplish any hard task.
This is true.
Like you're like, what? At least it's not 120 degrees in Las Vegas right now.
That's true.
We can do
that was the day my shoes actually melted to that little. I used to carry the first 6 dates of Warped Tour. I carried this little mat called a moon mat that I put behind our booth so that we could stand on it and everybody's back would feel a little better. After Vegas and then Cincinnati, it was directly after Cincinnati where we were in Cincinnati and it was 100 with 80% humidity, and the tar that we were on in that stadium melted onto my shoes, onto my skateboard, and onto my moon mat, and I threw it away that night. So,
wow.
But it was Warped Tour.
But we did
insane.
It was insane, and we got to meet some of the greatest people and learn. So today was my first day off since taking the job, and to be completely honest, I took a physical mental day, and I've literally slept most of the day. I don't normally do that. And to set up mental things, and I asked Tina about this, and I like to be real open on this forum. I beat myself up all day because I felt like I was being lazy.
Oh
And
no.
I don't know. I've got to get around that. We all need time down, and
Absolutely.
I've got to figure out my way around that because I just felt like all day I'd go to sleep, then I'd wake up and go, man, I need to do this. Oh no, I need to sleep, and it just kind of was beating myself up. So there's an avenue for me to work on this week. I'm going to jump over to Dan. How's Dan this week? What's going on in Chicagoland?
I'm doing great. Can't complain now that my Wi-Fi is working to get this going. Besides that, tattoo scheduled for Sunday, so I am completely psyched.
Mask
luck,
and
be safe.
everything?
Yes, absolutely.
And you have to wear the tattoo artist probably wearing a face shield and all that fun stuff.
Yep, he even called me up and went through the whole list. So
Radical.
Good.
yeah.
Radical.
Be
All right.
safe.
Wait. How was your camping trip?
Oh my gosh, just kayaked nonstop. Woke up at about went to bed late to get sunset photos. Woke up early for sunrise photos. Just kayaking the day away. So my mind has been at ease all week because of that.
That's great.
Nice.
All right. Jumping down to Mackenzie, how are things in the New Mexico land going?
I mean, things are good, considering everything else in the world. I've been at my new job for a couple weeks now, and that's been kind of exhausting. It's just a little bit more effort than I was used to, even pre-COVID, which isn't a bad thing. Just, I took some simple things for granted before. But it's been good. It's been good. And the Penguins finally won the other night. So hopefully the same is happening right now. I'm not going to jinx it. But things are good. I've also been sleeping all day because I've been just trying to listen to my body, Rob. So you and I can just do that together.
Yep. That's fantastic. Mm-hmm. And last but not least, Shawna, how's things going over there in Baltimore? What's going on in your world right now?
My world is I actually am considering looking for a house for the first time in my life. And it's a very hard process and not something I ever thought that I could do. And it's only happening because of help from family and stuff like that. But it's kind of that thing where how do you look for a house and move in between tours? There's no time. And so the fact that I actually can just sit around and have time and find the right space and do the thing the right way is kind of an incredible thing. So it's like I'm actually just really trying to be grateful for everything I do have. And I absolutely have days where I just need way more sleep than I think I do, and I don't really get anything done. And so I really feel you guys on that. And I'm a big list maker. And if I can just have a good list and figure out, you know what, it is okay if I do these 5 things tomorrow. It's nothing's going to break down. Society will be fine if I get the groceries tomorrow or do laundry tomorrow instead of today. And that helps me just listen to my body and say, okay, you win, body. You need to sleep. We're going to sleep. That's fine. So, this week, because of looking for places and getting your hopes up and it being a hard process and thinking that you're poor enough to get help from the government, but no, you're actually not. And it's expensive to be poor. I keep that message keeps getting pushed into my brain this week. It's expensive to be poor. I had some nice big cries, and you just need it sometimes. I'm someone that cries out of frustration as a release. And then also when I'm really happy for other people. And those are the only two. So it's it's always a long period of no crying. And then it's time to cry, get it out. And I think that by getting upset about house stuff, it's sort of it's giving my brain a second to say, oh, and also it's okay to be upset about a pandemic. The situation's so big and so overwhelming and there's too much to take in. Let's get it all out now because the rest of the time you're sort of on survival mode,
Yeah.
Or you don't let yourself stop to take it in. Anyway, that's a long way to say practicing gratitude every day.
Absolutely. For me, like that big cry, I'm also very much like a frustration crier.
Yeah.
I've noticed, especially lately, that it kind of, by taking a minute and like just literally like throwing my phone across the room and just having that 15 minutes of crying.
Yeah.
Once it's done, I feel more grounded in a way. Like the next step is a little bit more clear. It's kind of like,
your head clears and you're like, okay, actually, I need to make dinner right now. That's what I need to do, or whatever it is.
Exactly.
It just makes the path easier.
Yeah, like what's the important thing to do next? And then and it's usually about yourself, which is good. And then the sun comes through again.
Yeah.
Until it doesn't, and it's just a cycle that we repeat forever and ever.
and that's life. That's fine.
Feeding yourself does seem to be sometimes the thing you forget to do. It's a Warped Tour example, and this new job thing. I've been putting a couple of sandwiches in a cooler and stuff like that, so they're in the truck with me. But then I get out there and I get going, and I'm like, oh, I should eat.
Yeah.
And the funny part is, when you order from that and they tell you it's been delivered, they take a picture on your front porch. I know I need to eat when the pictures are blurry because I'm probably shaking.
Rob, I'm just going to text
in
you like twice a day, like 8 hours apart, just be like, hey, eat something.
Well, I will. I'm going to give, speaking of gratitude, Josh Kramer, who does a lot of our artwork and designed that logo up there above me too. He's designed some of these skateboards, and he does. I think you all have met him over time, but Kramer's our big fireman in Cincinnati, and he's our physical and mental expert. I don't know how to describe it. The man is a walking make you smile, and go out of his way to help everybody he knows. And it's he gave me at Warped Tour nonetheless a backpack cooler. And it's like this one he found and he loved, and he knew that every day I was trying to stay hydrated at the tent or whatever. And he brought me that backpack. Well, over the with the RV and stuff, I don't use it as much when I'm touring. And I found it the first day I went to work for this, and I was like, my backpack cooler. And so now it's become my whole thing. So there's some gratitude to it.
Did you actually use that for something other than pickle shots, though? That's all I remember using that backpack for.
The Jameson picklebacks, yes, those were kind of that, and my just regular pushing of pickle shots on Warped Tour were quite known.
Well, you had a backpack full of pickle juice, you had to lighten it up somehow.
They work. I remember.
They do.
It did.
Yep.
So actually, I had a few of those that you had given me when I was working like 2 years ago. And I was bartending on like a rooftop bar at the time, and it was just super, super hot. And so I'd bring a couple to work and get me through the shift kind of with the electrolytes. And my current boyfriend, it was like his first week there. He was our new chef, and he was training upstairs, just trying to get a lay of the land. And I hand him one. I'm like, hey, it's hot up here and you're on a grill. Do you want a pickle shot? Turns out he is the most terrified most terrified of pickles of any person you've ever met in your entire life. Like absolutely, throws up at the sight of them. And I learned that the hard way on the first day that I met him. And he was also my new boss, which I wasn't really sure of. And then and very quickly also became my boyfriend. But that was how we met. And it was because of those pickle shots that I tried to hand him.
Well, I'm not the biggest corporate shill in the world, but I do want to thank Pickle Juice Sport for all those out of Texas. They brought the day of Warped Tour in Dallas, when I think it was one of the hotter days we ever did on that tour. They brought out an entire case of those little pickle shots for me to get us through the rest of the tour. And that's where they didn't charge us for them. They were just like, hey, Rob, give these out. And that's how I had them all. Now, we did put some with whiskey on some of the dates too, but that was, but no.
That's a private affair.
But trying to stay hydrated during the day, if you just worked one or two of those in, even if you were scared to death of it, it really kept your electrolytes up. And it's a really, and I don't know the science behind it, but because of my diabetes, I tend to dehydrate faster. I don't know
Oh.
why. So I'm known in all of the touring circles as the guy with pickle juice shots and Pedialyte, and then the Malort.
Yeah,
But,
you were giving it to us, making sure you're like, all right, here's your packets, here's everything you need, and I was kind of like, I was born in Texas, I'm cool, dude, you know, like. But I still took part a couple times because I did not know what was coming our way.
I think that's how I got called Festival Dad for a long time too. So that was a funny one because I would always try to take care of other people and forget about myself half the time, but that's okay.
Yeah. You know, I have a quick tip in case there's anyone else out there that finds it hard to remember to eat or kind of waits too long or is busy or driving like you are. I actually, for a long time now, have been doing like protein or meal replacer shakes because my jobs have mostly been like when we're not on tour, my job is if you don't fix the amp, you don't make money that day. So you have to be at the bench fixing something, and you can't just chill and have a sandwich, you know?
Yeah.
Because that's like it just feels like money out of your mouth later for other meals. So I recommend, you know, a nice vegan meal replacer shake just to it takes 2 seconds and then you can kind of get on with what you're doing and then take more time and make a nice dinner and it feels more you know, it's like that fun. It's like dinner's fun, making dinner's fun instead of like another chore. Like I already saved time, so I can really put the time into like loving this meal.
Yeah, I'm definitely one of those people who forgets to eat and stuff. So I've been getting like prepackaged protein shakes or just trying to keep like in my locker at work, I keep like a little thing of protein powder or whatever that I can just make something super quick and just I'm super bad at like remembering to eat. And then all of a sudden I'm like shaking. I'm like, why am I shaking? I'm like, no shit. Like, definitely just keeping any way that you can keep like just a little caloric intake throughout your day makes a huge difference.
Well, let's shift to our focus of the month, and it should be a focus of every month, but our highlight of the month is the badass women in our world. Punk Rock Saves Lives has jumped behind that, and we're not only trying to focus. If you notice, we're doing a post every morning about a woman-run business somewhere in America. If you have any you would like to highlight, please email any of us, and there's a submission form on the website as well. And we want to highlight woman-run, preferably independent businesses. And so if you have any of those, please reach out to us. And then later on, a couple of hours later in the day, I've been tasked with posting a badass woman. And, you know, we're on our 5th day. Shawna was today, and it just kind of worked out that way. I had her on the list. And when I reached out to her to see if she would join us on this, it just worked out as a perfect day. And then, like we were talking before we came on, from Warped Tour 17, today, of all weird days, Shawna posted a picture of us back in 2017 because we both were in bands and in the music scene in Nashville way back. Yeah. And we didn't know each other. But we knew I knew your band. I don't think you knew mine. We were just a small punk band, but we did know your band. And
oh yeah, we were huge.
You were, in the Nashville scene, you were very well known. Yes. At the 12th and Porter scene. No, I'm just kidding.
Right.
But she posted a picture 3 years ago saying, "Hey, Nashville, anybody remember this guy?" And it's me and her. And that just popped up today.
It came up today, Facebook memories. How fitting.
But we're working on ways to enlighten, empower, and what's the word I'm looking for? Equalize everybody. We want everybody to have a platform of power and all be together and support each other. And so we're focusing on women this month. That does not ever remove our push for BLM and everything and keeping on the gas. We want to make sure everybody knows we're here for you, and we want everybody to be equal. But women is our focus this month. Even though, Dan, you will be happy to know Daryl from the Bow Weevils will be coming on to talk with us on the 26th.
Amazing.
Daryl is not only an amazing punk rock singer in a legendary Chicago band, but he's also an African American doctor. And he has been going through all of this. And so if you've seen the video where the African American doctor is talking about it's big, it went big online. He's out in a crowd talking about how if you see him in his scrubs, you see a doctor, you see a nurse, you see, but if you saw him out of his scrubs, you see a black man, and that's bad, and that's the things we want to get past. But Daryl and I were on we got interviewed by the same podcast a few months ago, and we both were like, how do we not know each other? And we've been pretty tight since then and talking a lot, and he's incredibly inspirational. So I'm looking forward to that. That'll be at the end of Women's Month, but I don't think anybody's going to be afraid of that. So, and we're trying to have Miss Sierra Lyman on from Kevin Lyman's daughter from Warped Tour next week also. So we've got some cool lineups coming. But let's move into things. Dan, let's jump into mental health real quick. Any pointers this week? What's going on?
Well, actually, going back to the beginning of this, I screenshot this earlier from a Instagram account for mental health, and we were talking about hunger and when we're tired and hydration. But I love this that I found. It's called HALT, HALT. So check down the list if you're hungry first, angry, lonely, and then tired, and slowly cross each one out to figure out where you might be. You might be only one of the three, but you don't really notice until you really write it out and notice, hey, I do need maybe a friend to talk to and reach out to, simply messenger or a phone call or socially distance at a coffee place or some sort. Son of a gun. I love it.
I'm doing lists.
This is awesome. Yeah, I just love that was the beginning of the session. That coincidentally I had that screenshot up. It's a great way to just kind of go down the list and notice, where, those are like the 4 things that we need each day, minus the loneliness, but being able to just kind of go down the line and figure out where we're at. So, yeah.
Love that.
Very cool. All right. Well, let's move into the world of equality and uplifting and all of that. I know, Shawna, you are not only the singer of one of the most amazing in-your-face woman power bands. I absolutely, I know you saw me move around Warped Tour a lot, but I was there for you guys 80% of the time, and it was because not only
that's high at Warped Tour. There's a lot to look at, so yeah. that's high praise.
But I would sneak away if I could almost every day for a few bands, and that would be Anti-Flag, War on Women,
and the rest.
Yeah. Well, Anti-Flag and War on Women, those were my goals, to get away every day if I could, and then. I introduced Courage My Love, another female band. I introduced them a lot. They were great and very supportive of the Love, Hope, Strength mission when we were doing that. Very fantastic group of 2 ladies and a man from Canada. Back to the Pickle Juice Shots. Their tour manager came running to me one day saying their drummer was basically passing out. Did I have any? And supposedly it helped her come back to life and play their show.
That's great.
Pickles, man.
Kind of funny. It all comes back together. Pickles and Pedialyte. And Malort. I keep going there. But Josh Kramer, that we talked about earlier, said that Malort is my evil. Rob tries to be, speaking of myself in third person, I try to be uplifting and supportive of everybody I can every day, but he says Malort is my evil. That's my evil side. I'm always trying to get people to drink Malort. So
that's not even evil. No,
it's just a dirty trick.
Yeah,
if they've never heard of it, that's a dirty trick.
Some people think it's evil. I don't. I love it. But all right. Not only War on Women, but Safer Spaces. Can we talk about that for a few minutes?
Sure.
Yeah, your
You
initiative.
mean my book that
Yes.
is
Yes.
so casually placed on
Well, I was going to
this
say,
And I'm
I was gonna
obsessed
say
with this
author
book.
too, but yeah, author as well. But there you go. So
Yeah. I actually normally have it close by because I do a lot of virtual trainings and workshops on safer spaces. And sometimes I'm like, wait, what's that one thing? Hold on. And I have to find it in my book and be like, oh yeah, and don't forget to do this. Because one of the reasons I wrote down everything I know is so I didn't have to try to keep it all in here, you know? So
And that's also kind of why it's so important, is because there is so much you can do and so much to know about it. Like the fact that there even needs to be a book, like anything the length of a book about it, is why it's so important.
I think just because we're diving right in, for anyone watching, I want you to know that all a safer space is a place where people can feel free to be themselves and have a good time. And if they are harassed or assaulted, that everyone else around them has their back or knows what to do, especially the people that work there and care about everyone having a good time, you know? So that's all it is. It's every now and again there's some complaint about like, but that takes away my free speech rights to be a total jerk to people. And it's like, no, it actually just gives everyone else equal free speech who's normally silenced, who normally instead of telling security or someone that they think that won't be supportive after they're touched or followed at a venue, they just leave and then they don't get to have fun, and that's not fun, right? So that's all a safer space is. And so what this book does is kind of just lay it out. It's a lot of stuff, but it's all actionable. It's all doable stuff. It's not theoretical. And it's what you do if you work at a place, what you do if you're attending a show or attending an event, what you do if you're on stage or you have some sort of power like that, like where you're not an everyday worker, but you're still there like for a reason. And so no matter what role you're in, there's something you can do. And that's why this is so jam-packed full of stuff. And it has, you know, stories and like the science behind why our brain does weird stuff when we're freaked out, you know, which is fascinating. I really love that. So I put a lot of that in the book too.
It's an amazing, amazing book. I'm obsessed with it.
Thank you very much.
And I love that it exists. You know, if it, I kind of think a lot about how my life would look if things like this existed or were talked about 10, 15 years ago when I first started getting into it. Like a couple weeks ago, I talked quite a bit about joining in the scene and how hard it was to kind of like find my place or find my role without, you know, just constantly dealing with just the boys club of it, which, you know, I'm not saying punk rock isn't inclusive, but it's inclusive in theory, not as inclusive in practice, which I know.
I mean, it exists in a world that is sexist, and racist, and all the other isms, and so it doesn't exist outside of that. So it will be affected, just like every other genre of music is, just like every other interest is. Yeah. So the problems are not unique to punk, and it's not punk's fault, you know.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. And people are like, oh, well, it can't happen because it's punk rock. We're inclusive. I'm like, well, it does exist in the same world as everything else. And
definitely
let's fight for everyone's right to have a good time, to party.
Yeah. Like if it were okay to be loud about this kind of stuff 10 years ago, I might have not stopped booking shows, or I might have, you know, like it's just kind of, I'm not mad about where my life is now. I can get back into it if I want to, but it's just kind of one of those things. It just makes me so honored to like watch this whole world get better or learn more and be like, wow. So the girls who are like getting into it at like 15, 16 years old, like I really hope that it's better for them. You know, it's absolutely, it's awesome to watch it happen. We've got girls, you know, that age doing bands now. Like we've got Dollskin got into the scene. They got to have a band. They get to do their own seminars and their own platforms for people. And that's amazing.
Rob, are you okay? You're falling over.
My phone fell over.
Listen, yeah.
It's just sliding.
Like, whoa, this conversation.
I know.
I was just, I hit a big wave. No, I'm just kidding. Not in Denver. We're pretty landlocked. But
for now.
Yeah. it is 2020. You never know what's going to happen.
The year isn't over. Don't jinx it.
I
Okay.
always go back to there's like an MC Lars lyric, like about remembering when you couldn't buy ocean property in Denver, and like every time I think of like Denver and climate change, I'm like that MC Lars.
One
word.
day.
Yeah.
And it's so where can people get this book? Where can they educate?
Oh, yeah.
How could,
Well, they might be able to get it from their local bookstore curbside service right now. And so I would say if you are able to get it from your local bookstore, every independent business is struggling right now. So that would be the place. If not, you can get it directly from AK Press, which is the publisher that put it out. So akpress.org. Or you can get it from the site that shall not be named. But I'd much rather you get it from your local bookstore. And, you know, and I'm having this conversation a lot these days about where do safer spaces fit in when we're inside a lot, when our interactions with each other are limited, when there's so many seemingly, you know, like just more important things to worry about, like our basic survival, right? Like it's stressful. For me, at least, but I think for many other people, it's stressful to leave the house and worry, or am I going to get sick? And you bring your groceries home and like wipe them all down. And like, even though supposedly that's fine, but like I'm still wiping them down. It's just a lot of mental energy being spent on just keeping yourself safe. And that is that stresses the body out a lot. And so it's hard to then think like, oh, now I have to like learn the 5 Ds of bystander intervention or something, you know, like what am I supposed to say if someone's being harassed on the street? I won't even hear it because like we're 6 feet apart. But the thing is, harassment, violence, identity-based violence, intimate partner violence, like none of that stuff has stopped just because we're trying to socially distance. Yeah. You know, like we have people in power that continue to call COVID the China virus and are basically scapegoating an entire group of people. And, you know, a racist like that is not very discriminate in their racism. They're really talking about all Asian people. Like they don't know. Mm-hmm. They don't know. Yeah. It's like a catch-all for them because they're just that racist. So, you know, anyone that's Asian is dealing with a lot of just your everyday harassment. There's also just the harassment of people that refuse to wear masks, like abusing workers who do not make enough money to be dealing with that on top of actually doing their job. And so part of safer spaces is one, dealing with people that are in crisis, that are really upset. How do you de-escalate the situation so you can get to a place where you can figure out what do you actually want? How can I actually help you in the role that I'm in? And using the 5 Ds of bystander intervention. How do you intervene when you're afraid to get near the person that's being aggressive? And you're afraid of being near the person that's like a victim of harassment, you know? Like there are still things you can do. And it's just such a good framework for any situation. You just make little adjustments and you can still look out for your fellow people, your fellow community members. And it's all done without cops and without the state because we can do it ourselves. So
yes, we can.
It's just it still applies. And I think that even if, you know, I am particularly like homebound these days, I am definitely a hermit. I'm enjoying the juxtaposition between the normal tour life that I have and this. I'm just like taking it in while I've got it. So even if you're like me and you just are home all the time, like you're going to need these skills once we do go out and try to enjoy bars and venues and shops and restaurants again. I have a feeling everyone's going to forget all the normal, polite society things that they were taught. Like their boundaries are going to be a little looser and like, jiggly and like they're not sure what they can say or not say. I know I'll be like sticking my foot in my mouth. I'll like forget like that sarcasm can be mean and I won't know when to stop. Like we're gonna have cabin fever. And
everyone's used to speaking on the internet right now. Like that too, where you're on the internet, which is more sarcastic, more blunt in a lot of ways. And
so we're not gonna have time to learn all the stuff in a book then, because we're just gonna be like dealing with what's going on everyone around us. So now's the time to get the information in.
I think that it's a great time to market it, just because the idea of survival is a little bit more obvious to people right now. It's a little bit more back to basics, because we're dealing with a pandemic. You know, you might not be at a show, you might not be talking about somebody's like emotional survival throughout the night, or just what is or isn't right that is happening to somebody else that you can completely move through your night and just completely ignore. But right now, like taking all that distraction away, taking the band away, taking, you know, the bar away, this and that, just seeing somebody who's being treated unjustly or whatever, it's obvious right now. Like, it's hard to ignore. And I think that maybe that makes this even more of a perfect time to learn about how to be a conscious bystander in situations like that.
You know what else I like? I also feel like in this moment that we're all experiencing together, like we're talking about, it feels overwhelming, and it's too big. There doesn't seem like there's anything that me by myself, Shawna, can do, right? And something that helps us get through the day is water and eating and sleeping, and then feeling like we have a purpose, and feeling like, well, I can at least do this. I can do this one thing. And so I feel like if people read the book, or they learn more about how to intervene when they see a scary situation, keeping everyone safe, like that's something that every individual can do. So you can't invent the vaccine on your own, right? Like we can't do that, but you can speak up when you see someone being mistreated. And that's a way, I think, to have control in our little worlds when we feel like we don't have any control.
Because that still is control.
Yeah.
That is. Like making the choice that you won't stand for that when you notice it or when you're around it.
Yeah.
You have complete control over what you do and don't put up with in your space. And your space can be what's within eyesight, or what's within earshot, or what's in your social media bubble. Like you can create your space however you want to.
And I know you're trying to talk about badass women, and I will let you talk about badass women. But this book is not just about women. It's not just about sexual assault. You know, it's really about any marginalized person that experiences some sort of identity-based harassment or violence. So everyone should be reading this book. Like I use the tactics in the book that are part of a training I came up with like 6+ years ago, so that I can be a better white ally to people of color, you know, a better ally to disabled people, to my trans community here in Baltimore. Like I can always do better. Even though I wrote the dang thing, like we can always all do better. And so it really is for everyone, to help everyone.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's amazing. And the amount of effort and like labor that went into putting that together from you, like I thank you.
Books are hard, y'all.
Believe it.
You do a poster campaign also, correct? That we can get more after this to get into the venues as things start to reopen in there.
Mostly, no, I just give people like suggestions and tools and ways to figure out what poster do they want to put up? What language do they want to put up? Because like every place, every venue has a different vibe, a different language, right? And so I would never tell, you know, a punk rock club that they have to sound like the coffee shop down the street, you know, and like, hello, we do not accept blah, 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 you know. So I want people to put it in their own words and feel it out and talk to their crowd the way they normally do. I just want them to do something if someone's harassed in their space.
Yeah. It's not hard. It's not a hard thing to expect of a place
well, not
of
anymore.
Yeah. Well, it wasn't before, but now it's less hard.
Yeah.
It was never hard. People just chose not to. At least that's how I see it.
The thing I want to pick, that I picked up out of all of that, and I hope other people are picking up, and I think we've been encouraging this with all of these PMA chats every Wednesday night, is this is the perfect time. We're locked in. This is the perfect time to learn. It's the perfect time to change. You have the opportunity right now to, you don't have the opportunity to be with people of different backgrounds, origins, colors, creeds, everything, because we are trying to social distance. But you have a chance online, phone calls, seminars, all sorts of stuff to see someone else's plight and
Yeah.
if you can work on yourself during this, I'm hopeful, and I know you all are as well, that we'll come out of it without those crazy, society's going nuts, kind of. And I'm sure there will be some craziness at first. I mean, we've already seen it, the Floridas, the Georgias, and all, and the Texas and the Californias, and people
Mm-hmm.
crowding the beaches and stuff. What did we not learn, folks? But hopefully you can. And the highlight on Black Lives Matter, the highlight on the Asian community, the highlight on women, and hopefully you can set in your brain and know the struggles are there. And when we come out of this, at least have a working knowledge to be a better human. That's our wish. That's our hope. And, we've tried to give people different angles on this through these PMA sessions.
You know what that reminds me of? I think all of that, what you just said, is pretty punk. To like treat people decently and like take care of your community yourself. Like that's punk, because the most status quo thing right now that we have in this country is hate from the top down. And so the only way to rebel is with love.
Exactly.
And that is one of the main things that, and I'm learning, like I try to learn something every day. I don't know if I can, but I try. One thing, as we push this positive punk side, and that's our whole mission, is to make a change through punk rock. And our, the acronym I came up with when we started this, when Love, Hope, Strength decided to quit doing their outreach and we decided to move on and do our own thing, was that punk meant 4 words. It means positivity, unity, nurture, and kindness. And that's what we've been trying to push. And I wish we could make it something. We could add 100 more letters, but we'll get there with those.
You can
4.
add as many letters as you want to.
Yeah.
There's no one saying otherwise. It's not like, we've already decided that Johnny Rotten kind of sucks. So, you can.
Yeah, it's gonna be like a big shirt. There's a lot of ink to put all that on there, but
But learning, L should be in there somewhere for learning, and that's what we should get to at times, is getting there.
A plunk rocker. There we go. See?
A plunk.
There we go.
Plunk.
Started it. Plunk rockers.
Plunk.
Yikes.
Jumping around a little bit, let's talk about War on Women. Have you guys been able to write, or is there cool new stuff on the horizon as a
maybe? We basically, it's really weird, but we were finishing recording right before all of this hit, and we were gonna finish a lot of the recording. Then we were going to go out on tour with Bad Religion.
Yeah,
and then we were going to do...
I was going to be there.
And then we were going to do vocals and mixing and mastering and finishing. So we finished all the things with all the other band members. And then our tour got canceled. And then we were like, well, I guess we can push up the vocal session, because I am literally isolated in an isolation booth right there, and then someone in a control room. So that was very safe. So we did vocals and we did mixing and we did it all super safe. And so the album is being finished, and I have a feeling there'll be a date announced soon, but nothing concrete just yet. But before the year is out, we're thinking fall.
Nice.
New stuff, a new album, new stuff to get pissed with. Or jog with, or whatever.
I think I sent you a message, but there's an HD2 channel here in Denver, and you can get it. Not promoting the big crazy thing, but iHeartMedia has it. If you're listening on your phone, there's iHeartRadio, and there's Punk Tacos, and it's based here in Denver, and they play punk 24 hours a day. A lot of it's programmed. You'll hear some of the stuff coming back around because it's not a full-time radio station per se, but it is punk in a lot of different forms. And some of you would
Cool.
argue you wouldn't. Some people would argue Paramore's not punk or something like that. It's got a little bit of everything in it. It goes punk, ska, dirty punk, gutter punk. It's got a little bit of everything, and it's pretty rad.
Any hardcore? Will they ever let us on with our hardcore?
You are.
You're still too scary. No.
They play capture the flag at least.
I
I don't know if you're getting your penny per play or whatever, but they do play capture the flag on a regular rotation.
Oh,
So-
that's awesome.
Nice.
That's awesome. And no, we're not getting paid for those streams. So everybody buy the new record if you want it. Buy the old
Buy the new
records. Buy them
record.
twice.
Buy the War on Women mask if you guys are still accepting orders for those.
Yeah,
That's
we still
sick.
have a face mask that I don't know how kid friendly this stream is, so I won't show what is on there.
You can show anything you
It's
want.
awesome. It goes like this. Yeah. See?
So people will
Smile.
know. Please don't tell me to smile, even though I'm wearing a face mask, which is a story I have definitely heard during this pandemic.
I work in food service. It is a
Hope you're
real,
smiling under
real
that mask.
thing.
It's like, how did you find a way to still use this terrible old joke?
I do smile under my mask, but it's like a serial killer smile. It's awesome. So it's not a sexy one at all.
You don't want to see it, trust me.
Mhm.
Yeah,
It's
go buy
exactly
some
how I
merch.
feel on the inside.
Buy merch from any band with marginalized people in it, right?
Yeah.
Like
Exactly.
any independent band, like they're all struggling. And by saying that, and by saying buy this book, and you should be learning right now, like those are all, I want to acknowledge to anyone listening, like those are all really privileged takes. It is a privilege to have the time and the mental bandwidth to like read a book about something you don't already know about right now, I think, or donate money. Like that is hard for most people. So I don't want to add that to the list of things people beat themselves up over,
Yeah.
Not just acknowledge where you are. And if you want another shirt or a hat or face mask or fanny pack from our band, great, go for it. I'll send you some free stickers, trust me. But if not, like that's fine. Like take care of yourself, your immediate needs first, for sure.
Yeah, that's what I think is kind of so great about a lot of the ways in which the world is trying to work right now. I think that whatever it is that you need or whatever it is that you currently want, like whether it's music or you need a face mask or you need some clothes, like there are ways to go and support any sort of marginalized band or business or whatever. If your favorite band is donating all their proceeds to Black Lives Matter, that's a great day to go and buy their music.
Yeah.
It's a better day than the day before if you can.
Yeah.
Just kind of,
we-
two birds, one stone.
That's
Two
been
birds,
one
one
of our
scone.
scone.
Yum.
We've been trying to, encourage people to do small business and support everybody you can. Go pick up or use a DoorDash or something like that. Order from your independent restaurants. I know they're not getting if you have it delivered from one of those services, they're not getting their full thing, but they're getting business they weren't getting. So right now it's the perfect time if you are hopefully still isolating or just being a lot more cognizant. If you can support a business that delivers or curbside pickup, that's been a big deal. That has created jobs. I've met a few people in the passing that their job now that they never had before is working at a distribution center or a grocery store or something, and they go in at midnight and they pull everybody's orders and they have it ready for the curbside pickup or the delivery truck the next morning. So that's jobs that didn't exist, and they're still social distanced because there might be 5 people in the whole grocery store at night pulling these orders, and so hopefully they're staying healthy. And our frontline workers, and when we always dedicated frontline workers to fire, police, ambulance, doctors. Frontline workers are everybody on that front line that are selling you your groceries. They're
keeping us
stocking
fed.
those shelves.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's your frontline workers, and a lot of those workers are unfortunately minimum wage. And and I'm not getting political, but minimum wage we're musicians and we've all been in the music world. We've worked our minimum wage jobs, and it doesn't pay the bills, guys.
It's not a livable wage. The
No.
research is there. There's nothing political about it. The research is there. The stats are there. The numbers are there for anyone that's skeptical. You cannot afford to live off minimum wage, and that's why it exists. So what's up?
Yeah.
So
It needs to be way up.
it's a horrible cycle, unfortunately. And
Well, and I mean, and at that point, the government is even admitting that it's not a livable wage. Like, they give you all this propaganda that it is, but then they come up with this additional $600 a week for unemployment. And they came up with that number because $600 is the pre-tax number of 40 hours a week at $15 an hour. They're
Right.
not giving you minimum wage
Right.
on unemployment. They're giving you what will
More
allow
of a
you
livable
to
wage,
live.
closer
Like,
to a livable wage. Yeah.
exactly. So it's just, they're straight up admitting it. It just, minimum wage doesn't make sense. The current minimum wage does not make sense. And
Yeah.
I'm sure everyone watching this already knows that. But
Yeah.
you can't
That
say it
600 just went away.
enough. Yeah.
Got my first unemployment
Yeah.
payment without that 600, and I was like, oh crap.
It's rough. It's 56% of what you're using to usually make is rough. It's not livable at all. I've had to be on unemployment before, and I had to additionally take an under the table job in a warehouse because I couldn't pay my bills.
Yeah. It's like, yeah, it's not people like me that live on the East Coast. Like, it's not our fault that rent is so high here, you know? And how do you afford to move if you can't afford to pay for
I know.
like the
People
cheapest
say, "Don't
apartment
live
that
here."
exists in Baltimore?
I'm like, oh, you think I can afford a U-Haul and and the resources to
No.
buy something across the country?
Yeah.
Like, it's not sustainable.
It's not going to happen.
all right, well, we're at the close to 52-minute mark. This is flowing like crazy, but
Oh my goodness.
we don't really have a time limit, but we have this thing we usually go by. So I want to spin it back real quick if we can. Shawna, I don't know if you remember this, but one of my favorite moments, and I'm going to go back to it here and use it to launch this little segment. The first day of Warped Tour in Seattle, I walked up to your booth and I said, hey, I consider myself an ally already, but I want to learn this whole tour. I want to know more stuff where I can be a better ally and a better human. And you looked at me and you said, are you for real? And I went, absolutely. I think it took a couple of days for you to realize it, but I think you did. And you looked at me and went, well, if you are, then I have a lot to teach you. And I went, and that's what I want. That goes back to that knowledge thing and ways to be there. So what are some ways, let's go 5-10 minutes if we can on what are some ways right now during our celebration of badass women as well as marginalized other genres, what are ways we can uplift, promote, and also become a better ally? Let's throw that to the round table. What are some good ways to do this? Yes. Open the door.
All right, I'll jump in. So obviously, learning how to take down harassment, how to step in when you see someone being harassed or mistreated in general is always good. That's when we need you, for sure. It's to actually say, hey, that's not cool, dude. And it can be that simple, right? Just like, dude, lay off, leave her alone.
Be violence.
No, just be like, what are you doing? You sound like an idiot. Like, just something, right? So we know we're not alone. That's actually really huge for our mental health. But also, just off the top of my head, I'm actually just thinking about the fact that so many people are in survival mode, and how things like this, big world events, wars, famines, pandemics, they always hit women worse. And so I'm thinking about just fighting for, a bigger budget for food stamps. I'm thinking about talking to your representatives so that they pass the CARES Act and add more money to the CARES Act and save our stages, right? Like, so many women work in venues even if they're not in bands, like it's obviously a place where there's a lot of women out of a job that can't make ends meet right now. And unfortunately, in times like this, also the first people to get hired back are often men, and that's like overall like all jobs. And so it might not apply to us rockers, that work weird jobs or whatever. But still, that idea means that, like, again, women are getting left behind, and of course, it's mostly women of color. And so it's just about, if you are offering jobs, maybe you can put a special emphasis on women of color, trans folks, people that are traditionally marginalized that need it. God, what else? Also, I think the reason why I was so cool with you being like, yo, what up, teach me on the first day is because I knew that, like, I think somewhere inside I knew, like, well, I'm going to be here for 2 months. What else am I doing? Right? Like, we're stuck together. I might as well like have a good conversation with you when I see you. But actually, in general, to go up to someone you don't know and say, hey, I'm an ally, teach me. It's actually kind of a bad idea. Like, you're kind of putting on that person a pressure to become an educator, when really the information you need to be a good ally to any group of people, it's all out there already. It's all out there. It's all public. It's online. There's tons of books. Any kind of niche group you're trying to, anything you're trying to do, the information's out there. And so I can, of course, talk to my close Black friends, right? And like say like, hey, this thing came up and I kind of have a question. What do you think about this or whatever? Because I can also, one, I know them. And I know the things they like and don't like they're my literal friends. And I also know like that as a people, like my friend does not represent all Black people, right? They're not homogenous. Not all women are homogenous. Like we all have different things. We're all unique. So, but I certainly should not be approaching any strangers and being like, hey, what's this deal with racism? What should I do about it? Like that's not okay. So just read an article, grab a book, watch a documentary, talk to a fellow person that looks like you, right? That is also a fellow ally, and talk out your issues together and see if you can give each other suggestions for how to do better every day, because you're both going to have your own unique take and we'll help each other. And then we're not putting too much taxation on folks that already have to deal with the ism itself. Now they got to deal with fixing it when they're not the cause in the first place. So not to call you out, Rob, but I think it's
Call me out.
It's a good. When you said that story, I was like, oh, I was being very nice that day. It must have been the first day. Like maybe on another random show, I'd have been like, what? Get out of here. Read a book. Bye. So just know that it's possible. If you approach a stranger, they might say the same thing. So let's not even do that. Let's just do it on our own and talk to our fellow people that look like us on how we can be better allies. Read the book, watch the movie, and start there.
On that note, also,
not to be a downer about it.
Yeah. On that note of asking, of just, being like, hey, can you do the labor to help me with this thing? I kind of want to talk about, we're talking about how this is harder on women for multiple reasons, as, like childcare and making less money and thus receiving less unemployment and not being hired back as quickly as men. And the list goes on and on and on and on and on. But also, we are very often counted on to do the emotional labor of how much this pandemic is making everyone crazy. Mm. So, like, we're the ones... Like, I have tons of guy friends who are just like, can you, like, just like unloading on me in a way that they never would have before. But I'm also like, yeah, I'm like, have you thought of therapy? There are online resources. Right. There are this, and this. I pay a lot of money to see a therapist because I am privileged enough to do so. Do you want to help me?
But there's cheap options. Maybe? No,
yeah,
but that's one of many examples of how a patriarchal society affects everyone negatively. Men are not encouraged to talk about their feelings to other men. Mm-hmm. So one, you feel like you're not allowed to talk and be your true self to half the people in the world. That seems stressful. And then you put all that labor into women. And since women are more encouraged to do that, generally share their feelings, they'll reciprocate, and yeah, so we're friends, we're sharing feelings.
Yeah.
But because it's such a novel idea to men think she must be into me.
Yeah,
I would
exactly.
never share this experience with men, so she must be really into me. And then all of a sudden we've got that like, wait, what are we doing here? You know,
Yeah.
and it's just miscommunication.
Or I'll
and
be
so
yeah.
So,
I'll be
yeah,
talking
go to therapy.
somebody. Oh, sorry. Yeah, go to therapy. Like, exactly. There's nothing worse than having a good emotional conversation with somebody of the opposite gender or the gender who you'd normally be interested in, whatever. And it can be platonic. But what's such a bummer for me is when it ends in the man asking me out. Be like, well, no, we literally just talked about my boyfriend as well. Like, no, you cannot start hitting on me because I just talked you through a crisis. Please don't do that. But
and so that's not fun for anyone, right?
Yeah,
Like then he gets
exactly.
let down and you're like, oh, I got let down too. I thought this was a friend, and oh, I thought this was a girlfriend. So like, you know, again, it affects everyone negatively.
Exactly.
So I encourage everyone to talk with your friends about how you're feeling so that you can get it out. And one of my favorite tips in doing that is asking, making sure you let people know what you need in that moment. Like that's one of my favorite therapy tips, right? Dan, I see you're shaking your head. You know what's up. Like just being like, hey, I just need to vent. Can I just like say a bunch of stuff to you? Like you don't have to respond, you know? Or, hey, I need to know if you've ever been through this, or do you have something to say about this? Or I'm looking for advice. Like let them know up front.
Yeah.
Because while I've learned that I'm supposed to ask, when someone unloads on me, I should ask, what kind of friend do you need right now? Do you need to vent? Do you need me to, you know, not everyone knows that. So just be clear and upfront, like, what do you need? Or just say, I don't know what I need right now. I'm just going to say a bunch of stuff and then maybe I'll know. And then that.
Go ahead. No, go ahead. No, I've always loved that subject only because, not to cut you, only because although all of us are willing to speak and even on the spot or an hour later or so, because if you go to a specific friend, you're going to that friend for a reason, or you wouldn't in the first place. To give that warning is a sigh of relief of, yeah, no problem. Let me get in my own headspace too. Let me not recommend a friend, but per se someone that you know too that we're both friends with on the same level and scale, and it's really helpful.
Absolutely.
That's absolutely beautiful knowledge. I hope everybody takes it and runs with it. I've been doing, and a little joke, but I've been doing my it's okay to tell your male and your platonic friends that you love them post. I don't know if you've seen them, but I'm trying to do them every other day or so. It's a little tough with this new job because I literally have worked every day. But but that I want to destigmatize that in kind of like a little personal mission, that it's okay to just look at Dan and say, Dan, I love you, man. And not
actually, I
everybody
have
can-
a campaign idea. Let's do this. Everybody watching right now, especially, you know, Rob's thing is like teaching men how to say I love you more often to men, but women, men, non-binary, all that. Feel free right now to set an alarm on your phone for every day at like 3 p.m. and just name that alarm, tell somebody I love them. Like, just do that, you know? Then if Rob can't make a post about it to remind you every day, just set that alarm and just get started that way. And then it'll become a habit. And then, you know, Rob can continue to work for the company that we won't name.
I want to get us back to normal so I don't have to do that. So hopefully
exactly.
Wear your masks and let's get our touring lives and get our music back and everything, because I know a lot of people watching this are missing our communal outpouring of love and respect and aggression and everything that music and a punk show is. And we miss that. We miss being there with each other. And until we follow the rules, then get the I don't want to call it the curve, because it's not the curve. I want this pandemic to go. I don't think the virus that is COVID will ever go away. I honestly think, I heard a really nice report about the 1918 flu pandemic, and
nice or scary?
Well, I don't think there's any nice reports.
The information was nice, but that flu never went away, guys. a doctor went in the 80s or 90s, and there was one of the last outbreaks of the 1918 pandemic was in Alaska in the permafrost, and a lot of bodies were buried there. And he went back, and they still had the original virus to the bodies because they basically stay frozen. And they were able to study that virus back, and it showed that the virus never technically went away. It just became, we grew, humans adapted, and it became part of the every year flu. That same flu exists, but it's not the pandemic level. It's just a flu,
because people are getting vaccinated. I'm gonna like sneak out the corner.
Sneak that in. I like that. But so that's the education thing I'm talking about. And there was a simple report on NPR, and I'm spending a lot of time in the vehicle now, so that
right, a lot of podcasts for you, buddy.
Yeah. So yeah, podcast and all sorts of stuff. That was part of my life anyway, because when bands tour, you're in a van or in a tour bus or whatever you have, whatever your type of travel is, you have multiple people with you to share the drive, or so-and-so, or a driver. I drive myself around the country with you guys, and so a lot of podcasts, a lot of listening, and hopefully learning, and that's a beautiful thing. All right, to close out every week, I like to put you on the spot just a little and see an artist, a activist, a podcast, something, a book, obviously book behind Shawna there. Something that you're listening to this or that's helped you this week that could help people going forward into the next week with their positive mental attitude and their PMA, obviously the same thing, but I don't know if everybody knows what we mean by PMA sessions. So every once in a while I throw out, that means positive mental attitude. There you go. All the way back to our brothers in the bad brains. So, Dan, what has been making you go forward this week? What's something that's been going on?
So I truthfully have nothing, oddly enough. But what I did see that I highly recommend anybody to follow, as he is a part of the PRSL team, is Steve Caballero. Earlier this week posted his outfit with the PRSL green polo. And if you don't follow him, I highly recommend it on the level of he's as genuine as they come. He's an activist for all. His inspirational posts are great. They're helpful to get by. I repost them frequently, and just an all-around great person to look out to. So if anyone for me this week that's helped me get by, it's been him.
Awesome. Mackenzie, what's been lighting your fuse?
Awesome. This is actually probably the first time I'm not talking about a band. I recently kind of super randomly discovered this artist on Instagram, who I discovered Dan also follows because he's just on top of shit somehow. It's a Black artist and poet. Her name is Morgan Harper Nichols. And I have just become obsessed with her. A lot of positivity, a lot of beauty in her work, and her story is really, really awesome. So I'm going to drop that in the comments. Go check her stuff out. She releases like a monthly mantra that's really beautiful that I literally it shook me like 2 days ago, and I was able to send it to somebody who really, really needed to hear it. And that made me feel special. So go check her out.
Hi, buddy.
Walter made an appearance.
Yes.
Get out. All right, Shawna, is there something that's been kicking this week, or somebody, an activist or someone we need to check out that you were thinking about?
I think I'm going to go with some music. I got a few ideas, but there is a rapper named Miss Eves, like Eaves. We worked with her one time. We did a 2 minutes to late night appearance, and we were the house band, and for the Hard Melissa show, and we did a Katy Perry cover, and then Miss Eves came on and did the rap, and she's amazing. And so she actually just released some new music, and this one song is called Belly Bounce. and it's just about all body shapes and sizes having a fun summer and like letting your belly like bounce while you dance, and it's like Summer Jam 2020. Like I just love listening to it. And she's a really cool lady, and she does a lot of songs about body positivity and feminism, and it's really, really fun. So I'd say that, and then listening to the Office podcast and like watching a mostly wholesome show, like with some cringy like isms, you know, but you're like, oh, how quaint. Oh, that was so long ago. But in general, it's just about like love or whatever. So that's been nice to hear those two on the podcast laugh and like remember the old episodes.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
That just made me think the Donald Faison and Zach Bramp do a podcast where they go back and watch all the Scrubs
do they?
and talk about it. So
that's going to be a whole new genre of podcast. It's we're never going to see the end of it now.
I know. At least the Scrubs and The Office, those are the ones I want to see. Okay. I don't really want to see one for Seinfeld or Friends, but I do want to see. But I do have to say, now that you bring that up, Donald Faison is a wonderful, wholesome human being, and I adore him. So definitely check out that podcast. I was fortunate enough to meet him when he stayed at a hotel that I worked in, and he's just wonderful. There aren't a lot of wonderful ones out there anymore, it seems like. So
what was his band? Take That and Party or something like that? Or no, wasn't he in a band?
I don't.
What?
I think
was he?
I could be completely mistaken, but I think he was in a boy band at one time.
I wouldn't doubt it. I wouldn't
doubt it. Time to Google that.
If I'm wrong,
somebody Google it and let us know in the comments.
If I'm wrong, I'm sorry, but he is an incredible actor, and I'm glad Mackenzie let me know he's a good person. That's always good to know.
That's super wholesome.
All right, my little picks this week. A Denver band got signed to Side One Dummy. I've only heard a couple of songs, but I'm really digging it. And I know Aaron Say, our friend here who runs Seventh Circle Music Collective, has been a huge proponent of this band, and I'm really excited about them. Please check out Plasma Canvas. And they're on Side One Dummy with Joseph and all them. So obviously someone thinks they're pretty rad if Joseph gives you his little thumbs up. He's a friend, luckily, and he's an amazing guy, but he's not going to put out every band's music. So Plasma, I'm kind of excited about that. On the nonprofit side, please go check out the Sidewalk Arts Project. Fantastic people. Riley talked about it just a hair last week, and we're going to have Riley come back. And we were so focused on the trans rights last week, and it was so great that Riley never got to talk about her activism on that side. So we're going to have her back to talk about the Sidewalk Art Project some more, and the Mabel Syndrome connection and all of that we've been working with. And it's so incredible. So please check those things out to open up and find out some more and rock out. And I don't know what they mean by sparkly andropunk, but that's what
Can't wait to find out.
Yeah. To me, it's rock and pop punk rock, not. Yeah, I guess that you can say so many things, but I enjoy it. It's our it's not Ramones-esque like Teenage Bottle Rocket, but something about it gives me a Teenage Bottle Rocket feel. But that's a compliment in my book. So
for sure.
Yeah.
And last, please everybody go support War on Women and Shawna's book. They are truly inspirational and truly awesome. The whole band are awesome folks. I don't know your new drummer that well. I only met him that one time in Milwaukee. But,
yeah, you don't. He's a nice guy too.
Yeah. The rest of the band are just incredible people, and you know what I think of Brooks. So, Brooks might be one of my favorite guitar players alive. I just love his style.
Actually, I want to add something. If there are people watching who don't already listen to War on Women, absolutely go listen to them, but listen to the actual words. Listen to everything that Shawna says, because they shred. Like, even if you don't know what they're saying, it still fucking rips. But, like, listen to the words and then understand the words and then come up front and scream them back at her with the rest of us, because it's super, super important sentiments in every single thing they've released.
You know what? One thing, just right before we cut off, for the last record that we put out called "Capture the Flag," I actually helped write a workbook for the album, like that has the lyrics. It's a PD. It's just electronic, just a PDF. It has the lyrics, and then it has some background or a quote or a story of some kind attached to it, and then it has some like leading questions. And so it's actually meant to be used for like teachers or people in university, or if you want to like just like dive deep into one of the song subjects or have like a discussion group even. That's what we envisioned anyway. So that would be
That's
one place
amazing.
to start if you want to become a better ally, is maybe learn about the history and the messed up
That's
history of
awesome.
gynecology, or like the weird origins of religion, and like stuff like that, reproductive rights, all that stuff. It's all in there.
Yeah, it
So
doesn't happen
people
as
can
much
check
as
that
it
out.
used to, but I will never. But it happens at pretty much any like feminist band. I've always had like at least one experience at these shows from like, if I get shoved out of the way by one more dude who has no fucking idea who you are talking about at one of your shows, I'm going to become a murderer. Like, it's just gonna happen. So,
but if it happens at our show, we have your back. So just wave me down and just be like, this asshole.
Absolutely.
Being a jerk.
This guy
loves
your bass lines, man. Like, he's like totally rocking out. He's loving this, but he doesn't understand a word that you're saying.
Well,
so that's
we got to get them somehow. We hook them with the riffs, and then we bring them over to our side, and that's what we do.
And it's gotten better. I've watched it get better and better at War on Women shows over the years, and so I'm like super stoked about it. But it's definitely, that's my disclaimer that I make people listen to.
All of that merch, and maybe that is that available at waronwomen.com, or what is there?
Nah, we have a Store Envy site, so you can go to waronwomen.storeenvy.com.
There we go.
Just search. I don't know. I don't care.
Support them. Support your music. Support your people.
Yes.
We love it. That's what we're all about. We want to do more. So please, a little shout out this week to say good night. I know Richard's watching. Love you, man. Hope you picked up something tonight, as usual. We're gonna have him on as a guest in the next few. I'm trying to figure out a good time. And Richard has shown me through an accident and through coming out of losing a leg and everything and learning. He's using this time to become a whole new human, and it's absolutely beautiful, man. I love you. Hopefully we can all do a little of that ourselves. Until next week, make sure you check out Spar Customs and our buddy Dave Davos, who does most of our merch. And if we understand that everybody's struggling right now, but if you do want some new merch or something, support your bands, support people like PRSL that are trying to keep you afloat. Please check that out for us. But if you can't, please stay engaged. Please do a lot. Be engaged in your community. Check on your neighbors. That's the one little thing. You don't know if the couple next to you are struggling worse than you, and you could do something that small to help your community. Just go over and ask them if they want to eat dinner on the back porch or across the fence or something. That's a way you can social distance and still be an activist. We love you. I love every one of you. Up the one love, up the punks. Good night, everybody.
Take care.
Thanks for having me.
Of course. Thanks for being here.